My name is Annika Sun, and I work as a flight instructor at Pacific Flying Club. I have done all of my training here at Pacific Flying Club. I started as a private student back in 2019, and then afterwards I wanted to pursue more training. I joined the BCIT program back in 2020, completed that, and continued with my flight instructor rating at Pacific Flying Club, and was hired after my training was completed. So it was just the next step in my career progression as a pilot. There are many roads to becoming a commercial pilot, to work in the commercial industry, right? So you can start either privately through a flying club like Pacific Flying Club as a private student, get your private pilot license, commercial pilot license, and the ratings you need, and find other jobs to accrue your hours. Another way of becoming a pilot is to join a formal program like the one at BCIT. Airline and Flight Operations Commercial Pilot Program, and that's one I have chosen. So for the formal program, they are very structured, and then it's very intensive, and you get on top of the flight training that's provided by Pacific Flying Club, you are able to gain a more well-rounded understanding of the aviation industry. I feel the main difference between being a private student and following a curriculum is the time structure, right? So if you're following the structure that's given to you by BCIT, you have a timeline and you have to be dedicated to your training full time. However, when you're working on this as a private student, if you have lots of time, you can do it full time, or you may choose to do it part time. Everything is at your own speed. Well, I feel that it depends on the person, right? So you need self-discipline, regardless of which program you choose. For you to be in a very structured program, you still need to study and keep up with a fast pace. When you're going by yourself, some of my friends have completed their private pilot and commercial pilot training quite quickly. Short term, I am going to be a flight instructor here, right? Currently, I'm teaching in the single-engine department, and then I plan on moving over to the multi-engine department and teaching multi-IFR, and that's the next step in the progression of my work as a flight instructor at PFC. For my next step, I would want to join a small regional airline. When I was in BCIT, during the time that we were building time for the commercial pilot license, we have a portion called mutual flying, where we fly with another classmate, and we would be able to go to further locations. We would be able to visit, beautiful locations such as Kamloops or even further than that. On one of my trips, we went to Golden, and then we came back home through the Rogers Pass. And we were pretty high up. We're flying around 9,500 feet. At that point, I looked around me and I was astounded at how close I am to nature. My eyes watered up and I thought, I feel so lucky. My whole family and all the supporters that I have enabled me to see the beauty of nature. And I've never felt so close. Think about it. Normally, when we're driving on the road, we look up towards the high peaks of the mountains, right? And when we're in the airlines, we look down. When we're in the large airliners, we look down towards the mountains. They're majestic, they're pretty, yes. But when you're just in between and you're flying this tiny aircraft, you suddenly realize that as humans, we're so small, and I felt an awe of nature. It was just breathtakingly beautiful. So it's very lucky for us, for those of us who have a pilot license, right? You're able to explore. You're able to see the beauty at such a close distance. A couple of years ago, a friend asked me to help him to go down to Abbotsford because he purchased a car there. He wanted me to go down with him in his car, and then we'll each drive a car back to Vancouver. At that point, I said, why don't I just fly you over? I'm a pilot. And he said, why not? So we rented a plane and we flew from Boundary Bay, and then I dropped him off in Abbotsford, and he drove all the way back. the whole trip took less than half an hour, right? So as a pilot, when you have your private pilot license, you have options. You don't have to be stuck in traffic if you don't want to. Or you can, and for my friend, it was one of the most memorable experiences he had. So he was able to go up in the sky with his friend. It was an enjoyable experience. And, you know, he's even thinking about flying. I was first introduced to the aviation industry when I became a flight attendant. So I worked as a flight attendant, and the first flight that I took as a flight attendant, I was privileged to be in the flight deck to see the landing. We were coming into Vancouver and we were on short final. When I saw the runway in front of me and heard 10, 9, 8, and then it was so smooth, right? The whole flight was so smooth and very little movement. It landed smoothly on the runway. And that was astounding. At that moment, I thought, maybe I could do it too. So a few months later, I looked into becoming a pilot. I spoke to other mentors and other friends, and I said, I am interested. What should I do? And they said, go for a familiarization flight. Go try it out. See if you want to be a pilot. I went on a FAM flight, and I loved it. That's what I did. I became a private student, and then later on, I wanted to pursue this at a full-time pace, so I went through the BCIT program. Now, flying may not be for everyone, but you wouldn't know if you didn't try. A familiarization flight is the door to becoming a pilot. So go up there and see what you can do. Once you take control of the aircraft and see how beautiful it is to fly in the blue skies, you'll really come to appreciate it. On a familiarization flight, a flight instructor will take you, show you how to do a proper walk around, a safety check of the aircraft, show you how to do the weight and balance, basically to check if you're within the limits for you to fly, and show you all the documents we need to take on board. Once you're ready, we get into the aircraft, we do all of the checklists, and we take off. After that, we'll take you over to, let's say, White Rock, and then show you what it's like to fly the aircraft. We're going to show you the references that we use inside the aircraft and outside the aircraft, how to fly with relationship to your nose and the horizon. And then we're also going to show you how to control the aircraft. Then we're going to give you control for a little bit, and you can fly the plane. After that, we're going to come home and land. This is the first flight that you have as a pilot. If you're interested, you can continue learning and just take more lessons. Becoming a pilot is more than just operating the aircraft. You're learning so much more. You really have to work on the mentality of being a pilot, to pay attention to safety, to planning, and you learn how to fly on the ground. You remember all of your procedures, you remember everything you need to do in emergency, and the feel and the look of the aircraft of how to fly, you will learn that in the air. But a lot of preparation is needed on the ground. BCIT offers an aviation program. It gives you a more well-rounded knowledge of the aviation industry. For my program, we had courses on airline operations, how an airline operates, airport operations, safety management systems. And we also did survival training, high altitude indoctrination, and also about marketing and things like that. So it really opened my eyes up to the world of aviation, right? It shows you the multifaceted world of aviation. One of my favorite experiences as a pilot was taking my family up in a plane. My grandparents came to visit me here in Vancouver, and I said, do you want to go up in the air with me? And they said, of course, sure, right? When I was a baby, my grandma always said, you are so tiny. Honey, when can the day come when I'm able to sit in the car that you drive? The day comes when I'm able to take my grandparents up in the air with me as a pilot. And now they're in their late 80s. I got the headsets for them. They're seated in the back in a 172. We take off, and now we're in the air. And I asked them, are you feeling okay once we're in cruise flight? And said, yeah. And my 2 elderly grandparents are looking outside the window and they don't seem surprised. They don't seem surprised. And that's a gift my family has really given me, that unconditional belief. They never doubted. They never thought that it's unbelievable for their granddaughter to be flying a plane. For me to be able to let my grandparents come up with me into the sky was extremely special. Last year, I took my mom from Boundary Bay to Port Hardy. I showed her the beautiful Sunshine Coast on the way there. On the way back, we went through to Victoria, we came back to Chilliwack, and then we came back all the way to Boundary Bay. The trip was beautiful, and again, my mom had an extremely fun time. Regardless of whether you're a private pilot or a commercial pilot, having this family or going up with your family and friends is definitely a really large and important part of your experience as a pilot. The aviation community is extremely supportive and welcoming. If you ever need help, there are always people willing to answer your questions, to guide you in the right direction. So never be afraid. And we're all aviation enthusiasts. We all love to talk about aviation. If you want to find a friend, if you want to go somewhere together, the community is extremely welcoming. At PFC, we have the club members group. On a larger scale, let's say at BCIT, when we're within our program, our cohort is together. Once we're out, we are still in contact with our school. But on a larger scale even, there are other programs. Like for women in aviation, there are various groups you can join, like the 99s, or if you want to join Women in Aviation, Elevate, and many like that. And also in BC, we have BC Aviation Council. There are many things you can, there are many groups you can go to find people with similar interests.